The plateau problem. Here's something strange. A lot of English learners can read a difficult article. They can understand a movie without subtitles. They know grammar rules that even some native speakers couldn't explain. And yet the moment they open their mouth to speak, something breaks.
The words don't come. The sentence falls apart halfway through. And they think, I've studied for years, why am I still stuck? If that sounds familiar, I want you to notice something important. You are not stuck because you haven't studied enough. You're stuck because of how you've been studying. Most learners treat English like a subject to finish. Something you read about, memorize, and check off a list. But English isn't a subject. It's a skill. And skills don't work like information. You don't build a skill by learning facts about it. You build a skill the same way you build a muscle through repeated, structured, physical use. Think about anyone who's genuinely fit. They didn't get that way by reading fitness magazines for 3 hours a day. They got there through short, focused, repeated workouts done consistently week after week. Nobody skips a workout because they already know how squats work. The knowing isn't the point. The doing is the point. English works exactly the same way. And once you see it that way, the plateau makes perfect sense. You've been reading about the gym instead of going to it. So today, we're going to fix that. I'm going to show you exactly what a workout for your English looks like. Not a vague idea, but a specific, repeatable routine you can start using in the next 10 minutes. We'll cover the science behind why it works, the 4 core areas you need to train, a real daily structure you can follow, the most common mistakes that quietly sabotage progress, and how to make this a habit that actually survives your busy week. By the end of this video, you won't need motivation to keep improving your English. You'll have a system, and systems don't depend on how you feel that day. They just run. Let's start by understanding exactly why this workout analogy isn't just a nice metaphor. It's actually how your brain builds language ability. Language as a workout, not a lecture. Let's take the fitness comparison seriously for a moment, because almost every principle from physical training maps directly onto language learning. First, specificity. If you want stronger legs, you train your legs. Reading fitness theory doesn't build muscle. The specific movement does. In English, if you want to speak more fluently, you have to actually speak. Reading about grammar, watching videos about pronunciation, collecting vocabulary lists, none of that is the same movement as producing real sentences out loud, under time pressure, with no script to follow. It's related, it's useful, but it's not the same exercise, and it won't build the same ability. Second, progressive overload. In the gym, you don't lift the same light weight forever. You gradually increase the challenge, or your body stops adapting. In English, this means you can't keep practicing the same easy sentences you mastered months ago. You need to keep nudging yourself into material and conversations that are just slightly above your comfort zone. Too easy, and you plateau. Too hard, and you burn out or give up. The sweet spot is difficult but doable, every single day. Third, frequency beats intensity. A 3-hour study session once a week is far less effective than 15 focused minutes every day. This isn't just intuition, it reflects how memory and skill actually consolidate. Your brain strengthens a skill through repeated exposure over time, not through one long exposure. Cramming creates the illusion of progress that fades fast. Daily reps create durable ability. Fourth, recovery matters, but so does consistency. Athletes don't train the same muscle group to exhaustion every single day, but they also don't take 3 weeks off between sessions. There's a rhythm, consistent effort, varied focus, occasional lighter days. We'll come back to this when we build your weekly plan. So here's the shift I want you to make right now. Stop asking, "What should I study today?" and start asking, "What should I train today?" Studying is passive. It's information going in. Training is active. It's ability coming out. And fluency is built entirely by the second one. Now let's look at why this actually works at the level of how your brain learns. Because understanding the why will make it much easier to stick with the how. The science of why this works. There are 3 learning principles working underneath this whole approach, and once you understand them, the daily routine we build later will make complete sense instead of feeling arbitrary. The first is active recall. Your brain retains information far better when it has to retrieve something from memory than when it simply rereads something familiar. This is why rereading your notes feels productive, but often isn't. You're recognizing information, not recalling it. Saying a sentence out loud from memory, translating a thought on the spot, or answering a question without looking anything up. These force retrieval, and retrieval is what strengthens the memory pathway. This is one of the most consistently supported findings in learning science. The second is spaced repetition. Your brain doesn't need to see a word 50 times in one sitting. It needs to see that word several times, spaced out over days, with the gap growing slightly each time. Reviewing something right before you'd naturally forget it is far more efficient than reviewing it while it's still fresh. This is exactly why a short daily habit beats an occasional long one. It naturally creates the spacing your memory needs. The third, and probably the most overlooked, is the balance between input and output. Comprehensible input, listening and reading material you mostly understand, is essential. It's how your brain absorbs patterns, vocabulary, and natural rhythm, but input alone builds recognition, not production. You can understand a word for years without ever being able to produce it naturally in conversation. Output, speaking and writing, is what forces your brain to convert passive knowledge into active ability. Most learners overinvest in input because it's comfortable, and underinvest in output because it's uncomfortable. That imbalance is one of the biggest reasons people plateau at an intermediate level for years. So, active recall over passive review, spacing over cramming, output balanced with input. These 3 ideas are the engine behind everything we're about to build. Now, let's get specific. What exactly are you supposed to be training? Just like a body has different muscle groups, English has 4 core areas, and most learners are only training 1 or 2 of them. The 4 muscle groups of English. Let's break English down into 4 functional muscle groups. Each one develops differently, and each one needs its own kind of exercise. Listening is your ability to process spoken English in real time, without pausing or rewinding in your head. This is trained through exposure to natural speech, podcasts, conversations, shows, ideally at a level where you understand most of it, but not every single word. If you understand 100%, it's too easy to build new ability. If you understand less than 70%, it's too hard to follow the flow. Speaking is your ability to produce language under pressure in real time without a script. This is the muscle group most learners neglect because it's the most uncomfortable to train alone. It's trained through talking to another person, to yourself, or even to a recording where you have to construct sentences live. Mistakes included. Reading is your ability to process written English efficiently, recognizing patterns and vocabulary quickly rather than translating word by word in your head. It's trained by reading material slightly above your comfort level, regularly, in a way that builds both vocabulary and reading speed together. Writing is your ability to organize thoughts clearly in English on the page. It's often the slowest feeling muscle group because you have time to think, which means it's an excellent place to notice and correct your own patterns of error before they show up in speech. Here's the pattern I see constantly. Learners heavily train reading and listening because both feel comfortable and low pressure. They lightly touch writing, and they almost completely avoid speaking because it's the most exposing, most uncomfortable exercise of the four. It's the equivalent of someone who only ever does cardio and never touches weights. They get real benefits, but an entire category of ability never develops. A balanced routine doesn't mean equal time for all four every single day. It means all four get trained across the week, with output, speaking, and writing never being skipped for long, because that's where real fluency shows up. Now let's put this into an actual routine. Here's what a real daily session looks like, minute by minute. The daily workout routine. Here's a structure you can use starting today. Total time, 15 to 20 minutes. Like any workout, it has 3 parts: a warm-up, a main set, and a cool-down. Warm-up about 5 minutes, listening. Play something in English while you're getting ready, commuting, or having coffee. A short podcast segment, a few minutes of a show, a voice memo from a learning channel. The goal isn't intense focus. It's activating your ear for the language before you ask your brain to produce anything. Don't pause to look up every word. Let your brain work to follow the flow, even with some gaps in understanding. Main set, about 7 to 10 minutes. Speaking, the most important part of the whole routine. This is where real change happens, and it has 2 effective forms. The first is shadowing, playing a short audio clip, a sentence or 2 at a time, and repeating it out loud immediately after, trying to match the rhythm and pronunciation as closely as you can. The second is self-talk, simply narrating your own day out loud in English for a few minutes. What you did, what you're planning, how you feel about it. No one is listening. There's no wrong answer. The only goal is producing real sentences, live, under mild pressure. The way conversation actually demands cool down. About 5 minutes, reading and writing, alternating by day. On reading days, read a short passage slightly above your comfort level. And notice, don't necessarily look up 2 or 3 words you don't fully know. On writing days, write 3 to 5 sentences about something from your day. Not a journal entry, not an essay, just a small low-pressure output rep. That's the entire routine, 15 to 20 minutes. No apps required, no equipment, nothing complicated. The power isn't in any single exercise, it's in doing some version of this daily, so your brain gets consistent, spaced exposure to all 4 muscle groups instead of an occasional overload of just one. Before we build this into a weekly plan, Let's talk about why most people who try something like this still don't see progress. Because the mistakes here are just as important as the routine itself. Common training mistakes. Even with a good routine, there are a few mistakes that quietly stop progress before it starts. Mistake 1. All input, no output. This is the most common one by far. Watching English content for an hour feels productive, and it is. But if you never speak or write, you're only training recognition, not production. You'll keep understanding more while your ability to use the language barely moves. If your routine has zero speaking in it, that's the first thing to fix, even before anything else. Mistake 2. Training at the wrong difficulty. If your listening material is too easy, you're not building anything new. You're just relaxing in English, which is pleasant but not training. If it's too hard, you're spending your energy decoding instead of absorbing, and it becomes discouraging fast. The right level feels slightly uncomfortable, not overwhelming. Mistake 3. No rest or variation, followed by burnout. Some learners go all in for 2 weeks, hours a day, then completely stop for a month when life gets busy. This mirrors the classic fitness mistake of overtraining, intense effort with no sustainability plan. A shorter, sustainable daily habit will always beat an intense routine you abandon after 3 weeks. Mistake 4. No tracking, so progress feels invisible. Language improvement is slow and gradual. You genuinely cannot feel it day to day. Without some way of noticing change, like re-listening to an old speaking recording of yourself after a month, it's easy to assume nothing is happening and quit, right when progress is actually building underneath the surface. Mistake 5. Comparing your day 30 to someone else's day 1000. Comparing your current speaking ability to a fluent creator online, someone often years into their own training, is like comparing your first month at the gym to someone's 10th year. It measures the wrong thing and mostly just creates discouragement. Notice that almost every one of these mistakes isn't about effort, it's about structure. That's actually good news, because structure is fixable, which brings us to the real challenge, not knowing what to do, but actually doing it every day for long enough for it to matter. Building the habit that sticks, a perfect routine that you do twice and abandon, is worth less than an average routine you actually repeat for months. So let's talk about how to make this stick. The first tool is habit stacking, attaching your new routine to something you already do automatically every day. Not "I'll practice English sometime today," which almost never happens, but right after I make my morning coffee, I do my 5-minute warm-up. The existing habit becomes the trigger for the new one, so you don't have to rely on remembering or feeling motivated. The second tool is the minimum viable session. On your busiest, most exhausted days, you will not do the full 15 to 20-minute version, and that's fine as long as you have a smaller fallback ready. A 2-minute version, 1 minute of listening, 1 minute of self-talk. The goal on hard days isn't quality, it's keeping the streak alive. A tiny session that happens is infinitely more valuable than a perfect session that gets skipped. The third tool is environment design. Make the routine slightly easier to start than to skip. Keep a playlist of listening material ready in advance instead of searching for something new each day. Decide your self-talk topic, like "What happened today?" ahead of time, so you're not stuck deciding what to say. Every extra decision you remove is one less reason to procrastinate. The fourth tool is tracking. Even something as simple as a check mark on a calendar each day you complete your session. This does two things. It makes progress visible, which fights the nothing is happening feeling, and it creates a small sense of momentum that makes breaking the streak feel like a real loss, not just a skipped task. Notice the theme here. None of these tools depend on motivation. They depend on structure. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes based on your mood, your sleep, your week. Structure doesn't care how you feel. That's exactly why it works. Now let's put everything together into a realistic weekly plan so you know exactly what to do every day without having to think about it each morning. The weekly training split. Just like a workout plan varies focus across the week, instead of training the same muscle every single day, your English training benefits from a light rotation. Here's a simple structure you can copy directly. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, speaking-focused days. Warm up with a short listening clip. Then spend most of your main set on shadowing, repeating short phrases from real audio, matching rhythm and pronunciation as closely as you can. Tuesday, Thursday, self-expression days. Same warm-up, but your main set shifts to self-talk, narrating your day, your opinions, your plans, entirely from your own head, with no script to lean on. This builds a different kind of speaking ability, not imitation, but original, real-time production. Saturday, reading and vocabulary day. A slightly longer cool down here. Read something a bit more challenging than usual, and notice new words in context rather than memorizing isolated lists. Sunday, light day, just the 5-minute listening warm-up, nothing more required. This is your recovery day, low effort, but not zero, which keeps the daily habit fully intact without demanding much from you. Notice what this schedule actually does. Every core muscle group gets trained across the week. Speaking gets the most attention because it's usually the weakest and most avoided, and there's a genuine light day built in on purpose, not as a failure, but as part of the design. This is sustainable, specifically because it isn't maximum effort every single day. You can adjust the specific days to fit your life. What matters is the underlying principle. Consistent daily reps, varied focus across the week, output prioritized over passive input, and one lighter day so the whole system doesn't collapse the first time life gets busy. The real lesson, here's the idea I want you to leave with today. Fluency was never really about talent, and it was never really about finding the perfect app, the perfect course, or the perfect method. It was always about repetition, structured, consistent, slightly uncomfortable repetition, the same way physical strength is built. You don't need to study English for 3 more hours today. You need 15 focused minutes, done in the right way, repeated tomorrow and the day after that. Small, unglamorous daily reps, compounding quietly in the background, the same way a single workout looks like nothing, but a year of workouts changes what your body can do. So here's a simple question to sit with. If you did nothing else differently except your 15-minute routine every day for the next 30 days, where do you think your English would actually be at the end of it? If this video gave you a clearer plan than you had before, that's exactly what Fluent Harbor is here for. Turning English learning into something structured and doable instead of overwhelming. Subscribe if you want more routines like this one, and let me know in the comments which day of this weekly split you're starting with tomorrow.